think dealing with depression is a normal part of life and should happen all the time. Others also think everyone experiences depression in the same way. Some also think only women get depressed. People also think depression is the same way as being sad, and depression is not a big deal, and depression is a sign of weakness. So we'll see how these myths will be debunked as we go along the presentation. So what is depression? It is a mental health disorder characterized by low mood, loss of interest in activities, causing significant impairment in daily life and activities. So impairment in your work, if you are in school, academic life, social life, if you are a mother or a family member, and all that. So affecting your functioning, in effect. Here are some facts on depression. It's shown that 280 million people in the world suffer from depression. 280 million people in the world suffer from depression. And in Ghana, about 6.7% of the population suffer depression. And this is a 2014 study. And depression is one of the leading causes of disability in the world. And it's a major contributor to the overall burden of disease. So it affects your work. People don't go to work because of depression, and it affects your work and all that. And it's at its worst, depression can lead to suicide. Depression also affects people of all ages, children, adults, old people. And for adults, it's estimated that 5.7% of adults experience depression, and 6.6% of older adults, that's the old people, experience depression. Depression is also most common in ages between 18 to 25 years, with a percentage of 10.9%. And it's also known that depression occurs almost twice as likely in women. So for men, it's about 5.7%, and for women, it's about 9%. So we have the types of depression. We have the major depressive disorder, which is also known as a clinical disorder, the usual disorder that you have in your life. And then we have the recurrent or persistent depressive disorder. This can happen over a period of 2 years or more. So you keep on having depression over that period, and it's characterized by maybe 1 or 2 symptoms of depression. Then we have seasonal depression. This occurs when, for people in the temperate regions, they experience winter, and during that period, there's reduction in sunlight, and then also there's reduction in the number of hours the sun shines. So this reduces serotonin in the person, and this stimulates depression. And then we have postpartum depression. This occurs after a woman delivers sometimes. So that's depression after a woman delivers. And then we have psychotic depression, which occurs when we have someone who has psychosis and depression at the same time. So we come to the risk factors of depression. So we know that biologically, biological factors can affect or cause depression. Some of the biological factors are brain chemistry, that is certain chemicals in the brain predisposes us to have depression. We have hormones, changes in estrogen and progesterone can lead to low levels of the chemical serotonin, which is linked to feelings of sadness and irritability and leads to depression. We also have the genetics, that is people are born with it, so it runs in the family. So if you have a family member who has ever experienced a mood disorder before, there's a likelihood that you would experience depression. Certain substances or medications can also cause depression. When people are ill, especially chronic illnesses, because it's running over the period of time, and then they are experiencing a lot of mishaps, suffering, they can get depressed as a result of that. Gender, we already spoke about women being twice as likely to have depressions. And then age, we realize that older people also tend to have depression because of loneliness and all that, and poor nutrition. When you don't eat properly, it can lead to depression. Certain omega-3 acids and all that are good to help you get relieved from depression or prevent depression. Then we have psychological factors. If you have personal problems or major events happen. So if, for instance, there's change, you have a problem with your work, and then you are fired, from your workplace, it can lead to depression. And then we also have death or loss. So major events like death can also lead to depression. Then we also have social sources of social factors. And with that, if you have conflicts with family members, with your conflict in relationships with other people, it can lead to depression. As you think about whatever you're going through with a person, it can lead to depression. And then when you suffer abuse, be it physical, emotional, sexual abuse, it can all lead to depression. We have other risk factors. Low self-esteem can lead to depression. Having other mental disorders, anxiety, borderline, post-traumatic stress can also lead to depression. Alcohol, taking substances can also lead to depression, and certain prescription medications can also cause depression symptoms in you. So let's come to the symptoms of depression. It's divided into four. We have the emotional symptoms, you have the cognitive symptoms, you have the physical symptoms, and you have the behavioral symptoms. So for the emotional symptoms, you could have experience sadness, you realize that you're less optimistic around other people, anxiety, difficulty with anger, management, loss of interest in anxiety in activities that you used to enjoy, and then worthlessness. For behavioral symptoms, there could be agitation. There's a lot of things going on within you. You feel on edge. There's excessive crying. There's extreme irritability. You're easily irritated. There's restlessness. There's so much going on. You isolate yourself or you withdraw from people. There's alcohol. People also engage in alcohol use. They take in alcohol or they take in drugs to be able to quell the depression that they are experiencing. The cognitive symptoms that you experience are difficulty in concentration or making decisions because your mind, you are thinking, there's so much going on in your mind. You're thinking about, your mind is focused on the issues that is happening around you. You're also fixated on past or issues that have gone wrong in your life. There are thoughts of death or suicide, and then there's hopelessness. With the physical symptoms, we have insomnia or hypersomnia, that's oversleeping. There's fatigue, you tend to feel tired. You tend to either have an increase in appetite or a decrease in appetite. You don't feel like eating. There's weight gain or weight loss as a result of the depression and the eating. And then there are also aches and pains. You realize that you have pains, neck pains, back pains, headaches. All these things are signs of depression. Okay, so let's come to the triggers. So things that trigger depression could be anniversary of the trauma, family friction, financial problems, spending too much time alone can also trigger depression. For lack of time, I'll skip these slides. Now, there's an issue about depression, grief, and all that, and the differences, because people get confused. So sadness is just a symptom of clinical depression or depression. And depression in grief is not clinical. And when we look at the stages of grief, there's a portion that says depression, a stage that someone goes through depression. But that is not the clinical depression that we know that is diagnosed in the hospital. It's just a period of sadness and doesn't have all the elements. And then we have clinical depression that has all the symptoms of depression and other markers that show that it's depression. So let's go to the diagnostic criteria for depression. Someone is diagnosed of depression when the person experienced the symptoms I mentioned earlier for a period of 2 weeks and more. And the symptoms should also significantly affect your functioning, social functioning, occupational functioning, academic functioning, family life. Yes, so all these things should be affected to be able to, or some of these things should be affected to be able to be diagnosed as having depression. Let's talk about some of the effects of depression on you. So you can have problems with brain functioning, altered activity of certain neural circuits in the brain. And then we have socioeconomic effects. You have problems with schoolwork, family life, problems with finances, absenteeism. So let's go to the way depression is treated. We know that although there are treatments for depression and depression is treatable, only 10% of people with depression go through treatment. So some people do not come up or seek help in the first place, and so they are not treated. And as a result, just 10% are receiving treatment at the moment. Other people are not also correctly diagnosed, and others are misdiagnosed as a result of that. So they don't receive the treatment that they need. Now, the various treatment options for depression are psychotherapy, that's talking to a psychologist. And then we have antidepressants. The psychiatrist prescribe antidepressants for depression. And then we have repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation. That's to stimulate the chemicals in the brain and all that. Then we have light therapy for those who have the seasonal depression. They use light therapy to be able to combat it or reduce the symptoms or make it you feel better. Then we have electroconvulsive therapy. Now, so how do you help yourself as an individual? You could start by socializing, because depression makes you want to withdraw from people. So you try to come out, socialize, and then you exercise, walking, yoga, all helps. Eating healthy. As I said, nutrition is a factor. So you need to eat healthy to be able to combat depression. Volunteer or give out. Thinking about other people other than yourself can pull you out of depression and make you see things in a different way and realize that other people are also suffering. Then be creative. Creativity sparks a lot of chemicals in your brain and makes you feel good about yourself. So you could also learn something new. Take a class in something, beads making, yogurt making, whatever. Music is also therapeutic for depression. Meditation also helps. You could redecorate your room. You could start a new hobby. Sleeping helps, because for some people, they don't sleep, they don't get enough sleep. So sleeping, trying to sleep helps to make your mood become better as it changes the hormone, the chemicals and the hormones in your body. Journaling, writing out what you are feeling also helps you gain clarity and make you feel better. You also need to cry. Usually they say you shouldn't cry, and especially for the men. They say crying is not good. You are not supposed to cry as men, but crying actually helps you, make you feel better. Certain hormones are released when you cry, so it helps you feel better. How do you help someone who is depressed? You need to first know the symptoms of depression and have everything in order. Encourage the person to talk about their feelings, because they really would want to talk and they would like to keep to themselves. Be a gentle listener. Listen, don't ask too many questions. Just listen to the person as the person talks about his or her feelings and what he or she is going through. And be gentle, yes, persistent. So sometimes the person might not be forthcoming. Today, the person might talk. Another time, the person might not express his or her emotions. So you have to gently prod the person to open up and talk. Okay, so we'll skip this because of time. Encouraging statement you could make is, you are not alone. I'm here for you during tough times. Please tell me what I can do to help. Things you shouldn't say, like try to look on the bright side, which we often do as Ghanaians. Everyone goes through tough times. Just snap out of it, get out of it. You should be feeling better by now, as you get exasperated with the person being depressed every day. Okay, so I'll skip this because of time. Okay, so these are my references. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So Please, this time is supposed to be for questions and open discussion. So kindly put in any questions you may have in the chat, so that we address them to Madam Anne for you. If you also have an interesting point you want to make, you can put it in the chat as well. Thank you.
Okay, so before the questions, I'll have to make this point that if you try to help yourself, you go through the self-help exercises and things don't work out, then please seek professional help. Either a clinical psychologist, a professional clinical psychologist, or a psychiatrist if you need the services of a psychiatrist. Thank you.
Okay, there's a question in the chat from Funmi. The question is, how do you suggest one starts a conversation with a young person you observe showing signs of depression? I don't know if you want me to combine the questions, ask them one by one, because there's another one here too.
Okay, so let me go back to the slide. So you could say that I have noticed some changes in you recently, and I'm wondering how you are doing. And you could also say, maybe I just wanted to check up on you because you seem a little down lately. Yeah, so these are some of the ways you could start conversations.
Okay, there's a question. If it's biological and it runs in your family, how can you help yourself?
Okay, so yeah, depression, if it runs through your family, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to get it. Sometimes environmental factors could predispose you to having it. So environmental stresses and things like that. Stress, for instance, can bring it up. So you should try as much as possible not to be stressed. Try and manage whatever situations you find yourself in. If you need help in solving problems, try to solve them and don't let these things overwhelm you, because when they overwhelm you, that's when you tend to have depression. So it can run in your family, it can be in your system, but then if nothing triggers it, if there's no environmental factor that triggers it, you wouldn't have it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question about if it's biological, can it affect your children? I think this question is also asking what kind of coping mechanisms you can put in place for children before they grow up, so that if they have that disposition, it won't start to affect them as they grow.
Okay, so you should encourage, with your children, you should encourage them to talk about their problems, their issues. They shouldn't bottle up their problems. They should encourage them to talk to you when they encounter any situation at school or maybe with their friends. They should also help them to learn how to take proper care of themselves. So good nutrition, eating properly, exercising also helps, because it brings about or it stimulates endorphins. These are hormones. These are called happy hormones, which makes you feel happy and fulfilled at the end of the day. So exercises could help the children feel better and happy. Yeah, so these are some of the things that you can put in place to ensure that children don't get depressed.
Okay, there's a question that says, what food supplements are recommended if a depressed person loses appetite and refuses food for a period of time?
Yeah, so I was talking about omega-3 fatty acids are good for someone who is experiencing depression. Yeah, so it helps a lot. Some of the vitamin B supplements too are also good in helping with depression as well. So these are good things to take.
Okay, there's a question that says, I know a lot of friends and family who are showing signs of depression. How do you advise them to seek help, especially if you are also depressed?
If you are also depressed, then you can start the conversation by talking about how you feel and what you are going through, and also talk about, use the opening statement, as I said earlier, so that will encourage them to talk about it, or talking about even your problem could help them or be an opener for them to also talk about them, because they'll associate themselves with whatever you are going through. And you could tell them, you could help them with their self-help skills, talk about, help them go through that. But if they have difficulties with that, or the depression does not ebb, then you can suggest that they seek help, as that would help them manage their depression properly and resolve whatever issues that they are going through.
Okay, thank you. And someone is asking, there are a few questions about suicide. How do you deal with people who are having suicidal thoughts, and how do you help them to come out of those thoughts?
I think suicide, it's another presentation we are going to have, mainly on suicide. But then quickly, what you need to do is to give them time, space, let them know that you are there for them. Encourage them to talk about whatever issues that they are facing. Let them know that you are there regardless, no matter how difficult, no matter how achy it is. You are not going to judge them. You could be with them and also talk about, maybe look out for certain things, such as they having dangerous weapons around them and all those things that could harm them. Okay, so you talk about that and help them take away all those dangerous objects around them, so that when they think or feel like trying to commit suicide, they don't go in for these weapons to eventually end up committing suicide. So these are some of the things you can do to help.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's another question about men and depression. Says, how do
Okay.
you support a depressed husband? Men are always in denial and don't talk much.
Okay. So you have to let them know that you are there for them, and encourage them that you are not going to be judgmental, no matter how difficult the situation is. They should talk about it. Don't put a lot of pressure on them. Let them know that whenever they feel like talking about it, you are there to listen. And then you could suggest, when they eventually talk, you could suggest various solutions for them, work it through with them, various solutions to the issues. And I think that's about it. That's what you have to do. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. There's a question on the light therapy you mentioned. Someone wants you to explain it a bit more and explain how effective it is as a treatment for depression.
Yeah. So with the light therapy, we use light. So the normal, not the normal bulb, but then we tend to use a special light that the person stays under for a few hours at a time to change the issues or the hormones that, or the chemicals that are within the body. So for instance, melatonin, which is a sleep hormone, is disrupted when there's when there isn't enough light and all that. Those, and then also because of that, it affects sleeps and then changes the mood. So when it affects your sleep, then your mood changes, and then you start feeling depressed and all that. So the person stays under lights, a special lights, for a number of hours, during the treatment, and then gradually, so the person, it's as though the light has increased, the length of time that the light is on, or daytime has increased for that particular person. And so it helps jolt the person out of depression, or makes the person's mood a little lighter, and definitely, and at the end of the day, the person comes out of depression. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And please, there's a question about the role that somatization plays as a single problem associated with a misdiagnosis of depression in primary care. There's another question about chronic illness and disability and how people who deal with those issues can help to prevent depression.
Yeah, so with regards to the somatization, because depression has physical effects such as aches and pains, headaches, back pains and all that, people tend to think that they need maybe paracetamol to resolve the issue, or painkiller to resolve the issue of the back pain, or and then they go in the line of medicine, medical care. So they tend to be misdiagnosed because of the way they present their symptoms. Some of the doctors will be led to think that it's the physical ailments they are dealing with. So that's how come there's misdiagnosis. So once you know that with depression, there could be physical symptoms which could mimic a normal medical issue, you are aware, and then you would seek proper treatment or proper help. So you go to the right quarters for help. I don't know whether I've answered the question properly.
Okay, please, the person who asked that question, you can let us know in the chat if you have a follow-up. There's another question about eating habits. And the person is asking, how do you avoid eating too much when you're stressed or depressed? I think you can also add those who don't eat enough or at all during depression. How can we boost their appetite to eat more?
Okay. So I think that I missed this question, and the chronic illness and disability. And
yes.
So when people go through chronic illnesses like diabetes, hypertension, sickle cell disorders, because of what they go through, the length of time they have to go through that particular illness or medical disorder, the burden, everything that they need to, the lifestyle changes that they have to make, changes in nutrition, the amount of medication they have to take, the effect of the illness on them as a person, on their physical bodies as well. It can affect their mental processes, or it can affect them mentally because of the burden they are going through. So how they can get through that is by trying the self-help tips that I mentioned earlier, and then also trying to seek professional help with the clinical psychologist who would help them go through or help them manage whatever they are going through, the effect on them as a person, and then also the depression that they are feeling as a result of whatever they are going through. Yeah. And then eating too much. How do you avoid eating too much during depression? When you have depression, what you can do is that you could try and not go in for things. Eat healthy, okay? Don't go in for the sweet or sugary foods, because they get out of your system quickly, and then they make you want to take some more. And usually depression makes you crave for sugary foods, have food cravings. So try and avoid taking those sugary foods, but rather take wholesome foods, whole meal foods. So the grains and the whole meal grains, take a balanced diet with leafy vegetables and all that, so that it fills you up, and then also prevents the body from digesting it quickly, so that it gets out of the system and for you to even want to take some more. Okay. And when you take the whole meal, the whole grain and the whole meal foods, the level at which sugar is processed or put into the bloodstream is reduced because it serves as a sieve. So it sieves the sugar molecules and slows it down from going through the blood system really fast. So that's how you can prevent yourself from eating too much. And if maybe right from the beginning you are having issues, problems with that, you can take fruits. Fruits fill you up, but then they don't have too many calories to make you gain weight and all that. So that can help. And then if you are not eating properly, as I said, taking vitamins, especially the vitamin B and the omega-3 acids can help you be able to gain appetite, to be able to eat well and properly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And there's a question about how to get a depressed person to open up again if your initial reaction to what they said was not the best and caused them to withdraw. And there's another question about how to know who to trust to open up to, since people are judgmental and may say certain hurtful things when you open up.
Okay. All right. So for the person who you've tried to help open up, but still the person withdraws because of what you said. I don't know what you might have told the person, but then what you can do is to give the person space, give the person time, and then try again. You could tell the person or apologize if it went the wrong way the first time, but then you are tell the person you are genuinely interested in seeking the welfare and ensuring that the person becomes happy again. So the person shouldn't feel like you're pushing him or her, or you're not in for his or her good. You could also go through what I taught you, what I've said earlier on. You could try the conversation openness and then see how that helps. And if that fails to doubt the person or make the person begin to open up, you could write a note and let the person know that maybe there's a clinical psychologist here, write the telephone number and let the person know that whenever the person feels like talking, this is the number or the contact or the helpline to reach for help. And then there's a question on judgmental and saying certain things. If the person, you should know you should study the person, know how the person deals with issues or situations. So if you realize that the person is a judgmental person, you shouldn't go near the person or talk to the person about your issues, because it's only going to make you feel worse and make you feel guilty about the issues that you are facing, or even about yourself, which will make the depression worse. and can spiral into you trying to commit suicide as a result of that. So if the person is a judgmental person, don't go near the person. Seek people who are mature in the way they deal with things and are open-minded. Especially, that's what you should look out for, people who are open-minded, so that you can be able to discuss your issues with them without the idea or the feeling that you'll be judged.
Thank you. And there's a question here about if you yourself are feeling suicidal, what is the best way to snap yourself out of those suicidal thoughts?
I don't know. It's going to be a different presentation. So I don't know whether I should talk about it now or what do you think, moderator, Madam Moderator?
Okay, so we just want to bear your time constraints in mind, and then the participants, and then we wanted to try to wrap up by 11. So if maybe you could give a brief overview by then. If you don't think you'll be able to cover it in that time, then we can save it for the next session and then go more in depth.
Yeah, so snapping out of your suicidal thoughts, it requires therapy, you going through therapy. Some of the thoughts can be ingrained, and these negative thoughts can have a tendency of coming again and again. So going through therapy would help. What you can do is to try and think positively, but going through therapy would actually help take these thoughts out of your mind. So it's advised that you seek psychotherapy from a clinical psychologist.
Thank you. And there's another question about the substance use you referenced earlier when you were saying that one of the symptoms of depression, or the way it manifests, is increased consumption of substances like alcohol, drugs. And since these are substances that people take casually, how can someone know when their use has become problematic or when they should start seeking help for their alcohol consumption or other substance use?
Okay, so one indicator is when it starts, you're taking a lot, okay, and then it starts. Another indicator is when it starts affecting your social life. You tend to feel angry, get angry with people, irritated. Your occupational life, it prevents you from going to work or being able to fulfill your work duties. Your academic life, school related, you start missing classes and because you are drinking, and your relationships with other people. That's when you realize that this thing has become a problem. Yes.
Thank you. There's a question about how you remove yourself from the environment that is making you depressed, especially if it is because of your loved ones and that you are depressed.
I don't know the situation that you find yourself in. But if maybe you're living with your family members and they are making you depressed, you could talk about it and see how best you can manage the depression, or if there's a need for them to be brought in to therapy for us to help resolve the issues that is bringing about the depression, we could do that. But if it's necessary to move away, then because it's really affecting you adversely, then you could move in with a friend, you could rent your own place. Yeah, so you could move in with someone temporarily to get some respite. Someone you feel safe with. Someone you feel safe with. I must emphasize that, because you don't want anyone who would make it the depression worse, to act in a manner that will make the depression worse. So someone you feel safe with, you can move in. But usually we try to see how we can resolve the issues, and then you don't have to really move.
Okay, thank you. I think this is the last question we have. Someone is asking that since you suggested building community to counteract the isolation that comes with depression, how do people who have alienated their community during their depression, perhaps maybe when they were inviting you out, you always say no, and now you are ready to come out because you want to try to help alleviate the depression, how do you now start to build those community bonds?
Okay, so you can start by a simple test. Just reach out and say hi to the person that you want to socialize with, and then the conversation will start from there. So the person might say, "Oh, it's a long time since I heard from you or saw you," and then you could say, "Yeah, it's been long, but I just had a little issue, and I just had a little issue and I had to keep away for a while. But right now I'm back. I'm out to socialize. I'm out to for us to talk, for us to go out." And then it goes on from there. Or you could, for instance, if it's a group of friends, you could start. For instance, you might have some messages coming through, even though you've isolated yourself. You could start by joining in the group chat, and after that, you'd express the wanting to go out, or wanting to socialize some more with your friends. So these are ways in which you can come back from isolation. Or if it's maybe you're at home and you've isolated yourself in the room, you could come out, start by coming out to sit in the sitting room area, or trying to sit by the dining hall table when you're eating, and join your family when it comes to eating together. So these are the ways in which you can start to socialize again.
Okay, thank you. I think we have one last question before we will have to leave. And there's a question about the irritability you mentioned earlier. Person is asking, how do you hold yourself accountable and make up for the outbursts you had during your periods of irritability? during your depressive episode?
Okay, so holding yourself accountable. It's not your fault that you are getting irritable. It's the depression talking. So because of the whatever is going, the internal conflict you are going through, or the internal issues that you have to deal with, dealing with other people becomes too much, a bit too much, or stressful. And because of that, you might snap at someone, or get angry at someone as a result of that. So when you are done with this, the whole issue, and you're done with your depression, you just have to apologize to them that, well, I was going through some issues and it made me a little irritable. And as a result of that, I might have snapped at you, or got angry at you, or spoke back at you in an unhealthy manner or way. And so that's it. I'm working on my issues, and I'll try not to do that again. Another thing you can do is also to realize that when maybe your breathing is changing, when you're getting angry, when you're getting irritable, there are certain physiological things that can go through, can pass through your body. So for instance, your breathing becomes faster, your heart starts beating faster, your mood changes, So when you realize that these are the signs or the things that precedes the irritability or the snapping or the anger, you try to curb it by breathing in and out, or you can leave the scene so that you don't get irritable or snap at anybody as a result of that. So these are some of the things you can do to try to curb the irritability that you feel.
Okay. Thank you so much, Madam Anne. Thank you for
You're welcome.
Presentation and the thorough answers you gave to all the questions that were asked. Thank you for the participants, to everyone who took time out this morning to join us, to ask their questions, to listen. We're very grateful to them for your presence. So we will wrap up now because it's been about an hour and want to be mindful of everyone's time. So we will have another session in a month. The details will be announced soon, and we'll provide the resources for people to be able to join that session as well. We'll also provide information about Madam Anne, where she works, and how you can get in touch with people like her who do this kind of work. If you need access to mental health care or someone to talk to, those resources will also be made available to you. The recording will also be made available for those who need to revisit something that was said, or those who want to share it with those who are not able to join us today. We'll make the recording available. So thank you once again for joining us. Hope you have a lovely Saturday and the rest of your week as well goes well. And we'll see you next month. Thank you.